You guys ready?
Huge.
Yes.
All right, let's call the meeting to order at 7:02. Public input? Do you have, no? All right, seeing none, we have Jensen Kaithamadam here for the student report.
Hi. To start things off, I just want to congratulate all the fall sports teams that made it into the tournament. I think it was one of the best years for fall sports. Field hockey played Ipswich on Wednesday, November 4th. It was the it was the third time in 7 years that they made the tournament, but unfortunately they lost 1-0 to an early goal. The boys soccer team played Tewksbury on Thursday, November 5th in their first round, and they played a thrilling game that went into sudden death overtime, and unfortunately they also lost 3-2. And football made it to the Division 4 North semifinals, and they had a hard-fought loss against Watertown. The girls soccer team started their run on Sunday, November 8th, in a thrilling 3-1 win against Triton, and they moved on to play the undefeated Hamilton Wenham in the Division 3 North semifinal. The girls played a very tough game, and they pushed it to double overtime and into penalty kicks where they took the game. And yesterday, on November 5th, the girls played Bishop Fenwick for their chance to be Division 3 North champions, and they made history by winning it 2-1, and they took home the trophy for the first time in girls soccer history. They'll be playing Wednesday at 5 o'clock at Manning Bowl against Medway. At North Reading High School, Spirit Week is this week and next week. Today was Pink Day to support breast cancer, and tomorrow will be the pledging not to say the R word, along with an after-school activity of spike ball. On Wednesday is Twin Day, and after school there will be an ice cream social. And on Thursday is Tropical Thursday and an event of Dancing with the Hornets. On Friday is Decade Day, and there will be a Special Olympics bocce tournament. And on Monday is America Monday, where Belgian waffles will be sold by the Model UN Club. On Tuesday is the class color day, and Powder Puff will be held at 5:30 that day. And Wednesday is Pep Rally. Also, the Thanksgiving game will be held on the day of Thanksgiving at 10 o'clock, I believe. And tickets for Thanksgiving football have been went on sale today. $5 for students and $7 for adults, and $10 at the field. Tickets for a Christmas Story went on sale today, and December 4th, the original cast will be present at the show. Student Council will be going to their fall conference at North Andover on Wednesday, and yesterday on Sunday they went to a they went to a bocce tournament in Westboro to show their support for the Special Olympics. And tomorrow is Sports Awards at 6:30, and 49 students at North Reading High School were recognized for their high performances in their MCAS, being awarded the John and Abigail scholarships. And parent-teacher conferences will start on Monday, November 23rd at 6:30 p.m. For my student work, I have this debate that was held in world history. We talked about the Russian Revolution, and we were given different stances on each of the forms of revolution that were taking sides. And my group was given gradual socialism. We were supposed to argue for socialist society over time instead of a direct revolution. And I have a rubric and our packets here.
Any questions?
Well, I'd like to echo the congratulations to the fall sports teams. A great performance, almost everybody in the playoffs. And for the girls soccer team, that's tremendous. I hope there's a big turnout on Wednesday for the game. That's great.
Yeah, it's huge.
The game's at 5.
5 o'clock.
Yeah. I saw something today, and I saw that the cheerleaders finished, I believe, 3rd in the regionals and are going to the states. I'm not 100% sure on
That was a
that.
second place finish.
Second place?
I could be incorrect.
But I wanted to make sure we
had a good
recognized them
season.
also. I heard they had a good season, and they're going to a state tournament. I know this is one of Jerry's favorite statistics. I think this is the best we've ever been through the fall. We're 7th in the Globe Dalton standings for
That's out of
Division III schools.
40 teams,
Yeah.
out of 40 towns.
Yeah.
So,
We have the 7th best overall athletic record. So,
It's huge.
it's excellent.
yeah.
In that game yesterday, I mean, those kids, those girls are just, they're phenomenal. I
Good
also-
team, well coached.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the football team went down Friday night and beat a good Bedford team from a much bigger league, shut them out 21-0. So that Thanksgiving game,
And that's at home, by the way, the Thanksgiving
I
game.
think
is
it's-
at
Oh,
home.
I think it's, I think Linfield has 1 loss and we have 2 losses.
Yeah.
So I think it's 9-1 against 8-2, so it's going to be a
Good game.
Yeah,
battle of
for
the
sure.
Titans.
Yep.
So,
If we seem to be focused on the sports, we're on the athletic subcommittee.
Ms. O'Connell enjoyed the Battle of the Titans reference. Thank you, Jensen.
You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. And
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think our police chief will appreciate the item that he's here for this evening being taken out of order. If you don't mind, in your packets this evening are a few items related to an enhancement to the school safety and security protocols that I'm hoping the committee will endorse as I present them to you this evening. Before I read through, in summary, some of the documents that you have in front of you, I just want to acknowledge the police chief, Mike Murphy, who's here tonight. Really, his primary reason, I think, Mike, for being here this evening is in support of the initiative that we are looking to undertake in all of our schools beginning this winter. So the first item in your packet is an overview in form of a letter that I'm looking to share with the community soon upon your endorsement. And it speaks to what I consider to be a significant enhancement to the school's safety and security protocols for all schools in the district. You may recall that in both an August communication that I had sent out to all families, faculty, and staff across the district, and also in my fall October newsletter, I referenced that I had been participating in a comprehensive review of the current safety and security protocols that are currently in place in our schools, and along with local public safety personnel, certainly our police chief, our fire chief, and officers of both departments, and our school administrators, and that I would share some more information in the fall. So the overarching intent of the presentation this evening is to meet that objective. For the past several months, I and others have been working on facilitating the implementation of the ALICE program in all of our schools in the coming months. The ALICE program, which stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate, is a nationally recognized program that is a list of options that can be used to stay safe in the highly unlikely event of a violent intruder. That is a quote taken from the Alice Training Institute website. The program has received the support of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Health and Human Services. The North Reading Public Schools would like to formally introduce the ALICE program to the school district and the faculty and staff in February of 2016 through a district-wide professional development day. The implementation process would require several months of development, and the faculty and staff at the middle school would participate in trainings, and at the middle and high school, those trainings would also include students. The ALICE program unfortunately has gained increasing popularity in recent years due to the increase in violent episodes that have taken place in schools across the country. Several communities in our immediate area are utilizing the ALICE program, and my interest in it has been present for quite some time, and implementing it at our schools has been a priority of mine since becoming the superintendent in October of 2014. And again, I want to acknowledge the good collaborative effort that the school department has with our police department, and Chief Murphy's presence here again this evening as a show of support is just another such example of that, and I'm thankful for him to be here. On Tuesday, January 12th, I have scheduled tentatively, again upon the endorsement of the school committee, an informational presentation to be made to the community, and that would include parents, faculty, and staff. And at that night, I would hope to, along with our 2 assistant principals in the district, Mr. Maloney of the middle school and Mr. Downs of the high school, who have really been working very intently on the design of the ALICE program and how it would fit in our schools since the summer. They would be present to assist me, along with local law enforcement personnel, to present the program to the community, to go through the timeline of implementation, which is part of what's included in your packet this evening, and also to answer any questions that I imagine folks would have, because as you might realize, this is a subject that none of us wants to talk about. None of us wants to think about the possibility of our schools being violated by a violent intruder, but it's unfortunately the reality, I think, of where we are in the world today, and I think the more we can do as a school district to prepare people to respond appropriately in the unfortunate event, should it occur, then that is the responsible thing to do. As you all well know, over the last several months, I've had a number of discussions with you in executive session around school safety and security protocols. My hope is that you are as informed as you feel comfortable being, and that you can make a decision tonight acting upon the recommendation to begin our work with an informational presentation in January, followed by an introduction to the faculty and staff of the school district in February.
Did you want to add anything, Chief?
Unfortunately, lockdown is no longer good enough.
Mike, you need to.
I'm just going to make a quick comment that, we're in full support of supporting the school through the planning, implementation, and training part. Unfortunately, as I said a few minutes ago, lockdown is just no longer good enough. So this program, I think, will enhance the public safety and in the best interest of the faculty and the students in the school. So we're looking forward to the challenge and the implementation of the program.
Question. Chief, what are the communities in the area using this program right now?
Wilmington, Reading, and part of the process is for us to take a survey of all the agencies. We're part of NEMLEC,
Right.
which I'm sure you're aware of. It's part of what NEMLEC is trying to promote through our NEMLEC STARS team, which is the school response team. But it's certainly not mandated. It's up to each individual school district. And it's such an overwhelming undertaking. I think that's the biggest hurdle, not so much the concept of it. So like us, we've been talking about it, for quite some time. But the timing is right now with the new building and everybody settled in. So other schools may not be in the same position as us, but so we would, that night, January 16th, be able to inform the public what school districts have it if they're willing to share that.
Great. John, do you know, or Chief, if there'll be any chance to get someone from those school districts? They might be able to answer more questions. I don't know if that would make sense, or...
We have been working through the police department with a gentleman in Wilmington, on the Wilmington Police Department, who is, I think, considered kind of the local expert. Gentleman I happen to know from when I served on a STARS team years ago. He has been extremely helpful and cooperative and has shared documents that we would like to use here in our district to effectively implement the program. But I think we are certainly open to including people that have gone through the process and have experience with that. I mean, I think it's something we can certainly consider. But I also think that the two people in our district, Mike Maloney and Michael Downs, have gone through a training. They are now certified as trainers themselves and have really done a nice job tackling this for us and are working to, I think, put together the best presentation that they can for the community in January.
And John, I mean, this is something that Chief Murphy supports and endorses, and you guys have worked collaboratively on putting this thing together.
That's
So
correct.
Just want the community to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the superintendent said, we have worked with Lieutenant Sensabar from Wilmington. He's the commander of the STARS team. They just implemented it 2 years ago, so he's been supporting this program for almost 5 or 6 years. So it took them a little bit of time to get through that. But we have officers that are trained as well on the police end of it, and also they've been through the certification program as well. So we've done a lot of the background work on it, and at this point, and not to get into all the details, but we have met at length vetting this out, making sure that this was the right program for this community. And it's not just John and I, it's our staff, our support, and other agencies. I'm sure he's talked to other superintendents, I've talked to other police chiefs. So we've decided, at least on this end, my support goes to the superintendent, and he's decided that this is, the program at this time to try to get your support from.
I know going back 10 or 12 years, the school department and the police department had a really close working relationship going back all the way to Chief Purnell. and Dr. Trouton when he was superintendent back around 10 or 12 years ago, so that we work very, very closely with the police department and rely on them for a lot of information and support, so.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Venezia. I don't want to forget to mention, too, that Chief Warnock was also a part of our planning with this and has attended meetings, too, and because fire department could play a key role. And so we've enjoyed, I think, a very good collaborative effort to get us to where we are tonight to make the presentation to all of you.
I'll make a motion to authorize the superintendent to move forward with implementation of the ALICE program.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I think
Nope.
that it should be moved ahead as rapidly as we can possibly move it.
Agree with that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Chief, thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
So do you want to go to continued business,
Yes,
MSBA?
we'll-
We'll go back, bounce a
yeah,
little bit,
go
Mr.
back
Votto,
to
you
the
hang in there
business.
another minute,
So,
Reagan? Okay.
If you could give us the school building update?
I would be happy to, Madam Chairman. So I thought I would, I think at the last meeting, as part of this report, I had mentioned to you that we had ordered the, I'll call them the caution signs for the crosswalk that have been painted at the base of the access road. Well, since that time, since our last meeting, the signs had been received and they've been installed, and I'm glad for that, because it really is a tricky spot, and I think the more we can do to highlight that area, the better. So that, I'm pleased to tell you that those signs have been installed, and that aspect of the project is now complete. The punch list work continues at the middle high school. As you all know, this has been ongoing, mostly in the afternoon, second shift work. I did meet with our project manager, Kevin Nigro from PMA today. He told me that there are about 200 remaining items on the list of work that they have to complete by the end of the Christmas vacation. He expected that would be heating up over the Thanksgiving break, continuing the second shift, and also over the Christmas holiday break. The demolition of the former high school is complete, and the demolition subcontractor is now completely demobilized from that work site. And the lower site restoration, things like the drain lines, the electrical conduit, the field work, the parking lots to be built, that work continues, and the pace is now able to pick up a little bit since the demolition of the building is complete. Again, in the meeting I held today with Kevin Nigro, he indicated to me that they were very optimistic that as long as the weather cooperates, that a base coat, and you gentlemen might know more of this from the Thursday meeting, that they were optimistic that they would have the base coat of asphalt for the parking lots installed before the poor weather, the winter weather, as long as things cooperate up to this point. So.
Yeah, according to at the meeting, construction meeting on Thursday, they assured us that by December 31st, they'll have carved out the entire lower area there where the old high school was, and that the practice field, the softball field, the parking lots will all be basically, the only thing that will be remaining to be done would be the finished coat of asphalt in the spring, as well as the possible looming in the seeding of the fields. But when you look at that on December 31st, that should be outlined, it should be finished. I think they need to probably maybe expedite it a little bit and take advantage of the good weather that they've had, because it looks like there's still a lot of work to do down there. But that, according to their schedule, that's where they're supposed to be on December 31st.
At the site meeting last Thursday, they reported that there would be no Saturday work, and I noticed that they were
Working this
They worked
Saturday.
Saturday, they did.
They did. They had
yeah,
several
it was
pieces of
encouraging.
equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, we'll just stay right on top of it and make sure things get done the way they said they're gonna get done.
They also have had one machine working down there. On Saturday, there were two, so
It's a good sign.
it's a
I assumed it was the contractor, not some kids running the equipment.
Whatever.
They were moving dirt, so, I mean, it was.
as long as they're moving it sort of in the right place.
A couple questions and comments.
Yes.
One of them's not, I mean, it's related to the project, but not directly related. At some point, do we have a schedule or plan for when we're gonna start seeing the different plaques go back up? Have we decided what we're gonna do with that? Or, for example, the plaque that was, for the auditorium, I know that the gymnasium one is in process, and I know there's one probably in process for the Charles E. Jones Way down the middle, but are there,
I have a little bit of information I can share with you on that, so it's not a yes or a no answer, unfortunately. So as you said, Mr. Webster, the the Barry Kipnis plaque that had been in the old school is due to be installed in the gymnasium area.
Right.
Kind of when you come in on Main Street off the gym entrance to the left, there's a section of the brick wall before you go into the gymnasium is the spot that I've identified for that. I also have been in touch very recently with the attorney's office representing the Ellen Adele Trust. I think my last communication with them was just last week. They had been in receipt of a sample that I had sent to them back several months ago for them to consider as kind of an appropriate plaque to honor Mrs. Dell's very generous contribution to the school district. And they liked that sample. It mirrored, I think, essentially the Barry Kipnis plaque. It told a little bit of a story about it tells a story about the person. And so I was informed last week that they liked that idea, and they were going to be moving forward with the trustees to have the plaque crafted, and ultimately we'll work to have it installed. And I think some sort of a ceremonial way would be a nice thing to do. So as far as the other plaques, the other areas that had been identified in the old high school, and our commitment to making sure that they receive an appropriate placement in the new school is still very much what we will do. I think it's the right thing to do, and we've made the commitment that we would do that. I think the thing that's a little bit, I think, in need of discussion is, in what way do we want to do that? Do we want to just simply take the plaques that were in the old school and put them in a corresponding place in the new school? And I've talked with some of you kind of independently about the idea that I think it might be nice to do more in the way of honoring the person whose memory the area might be named for, and to do that with the telling of the story, so to speak, because I think it's unfortunate when you walk by a plaque and you see maybe a person's name who had a very significant impact on the school district, but as time goes on, I think people's recollection of what that person's impact has been is sometimes lessened, and I think that's unfortunate. The challenge there is how do we pay to have those plaques redone if we choose to redo them? So it's a little bit of a long-winded answer to the question. I think the important thing to know is, and for anybody that might be tuning in or might read about something about the idea of continuing to recognize folks with areas of the building that have been dedicated to them, is that we are committed to do that. It's just, I think we need a little bit of discussion around how we want to do that.
I think if we're going to do that, John, we should do it, because we've been open a year and a half now in the high school on Main Street here.
Yeah.
And the middle school's been open since September, so I think if we're going to do it and we're going to have a discussion about it, we should move forward on it.
Yeah, and
Do you want to have that as an item on
I
a
think it's good.
school committee? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever we're going to do, because
Yeah,
I really
put it on
think
the
it's
agenda.
time. I mean, I see Barry Kipnis in here every,
Right.
once or twice a month on the Hall of Fame committee meeting.
Yep.
And, it'd be nice to have the plaque up. We've already got the plaque,
Right.
we've got it's ready to be hung. So I'd like to see us move forward on some of that stuff.
Some of the plaques obviously are different.
Right.
They are.
Right, and so maybe we could come up with sort of a standard format.
That's what I think, a
that
template
we
kind of
could-
thing.
That, template, yeah.
Yeah.
And have a part of that, perhaps not an engraved story, but the plaque with a printed story
Next to it, yeah.
on the glass or in a frame or somehow.
And as we go through the cycle each school year, we have the plays and a lot of people coming to the building. Saturday, there were
Oh, I was just
a
gonna- yeah, I
lot
was
of
gonna bring
people in
that
the
up.
building on Saturday for that Friends of Hunter Productions Christmas Fair.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to have these things in place, and so that people, when they come in, some people are looking for them, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Sure.
Is there
A
any,
number of people ask me about them.
is there any objection to using the plaques that we had and then supplementing them with?
No, I have no objection. I don't know if anybody else does.
I mean, it depends on what they, I mean, are they beaten up? I mean, it depends on what shape.
No.
they're in,
Some are
condition they're
pictures
in.
with just an inscription
Right.
underneath it as to
But
who they
But
are.
Cliff's idea to kind of supplement that with a nice, even if it's just printed word and with a
frame.
and frame next to it, I think.
I think that's.
to
So we
tell
would
the
have, just
story.
as an example, outside the media center, we might have the plaque that reads Francis X. O'Donnell.
Right, and then
Media.
next to it, a framed,
Then there could be something, it's just.
yeah, like a-
I just, it's going to take some work, because
Right.
I don't, to contact people that can write the story about you know what I mean?
no, I know it'll take work, but as Jerry said, I think either, I don't know if we need to have it a formal item in the next meeting, but I think we need to move forward, and maybe we should discuss it at the next meeting and come up with some ideas.
If you want to do that, or I can move forward with
Well, you-
having them installed.
You can just move forward.
I mean, the Kipnis one could be installed the way
Right.
it is, right? It's,
It is, it could, yes. That plaque is, I think, probably the better of.
Where do we have the theater.
So there's the Daniel Shea Auditorium, Performing
Right.
Arts Center. Yep, there's the Frank O'Donoghue Library Media Center.
Right.
There's the Ralph Hudson Science Wing,
Oh, that's right.
the Hal Wise Music
Now,
Center.
where would the
That's
Ralph
right.
Hudson
Must have
Science
levy.
Wing go? Because we don't have a science wing
No, but,
per se. We
you know, you have
those
you have labs over labs.
It would be perfect, probably down in, maybe in the middle school in the area where you have the 4 science labs all together.
Except it was high school, right?
You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Bill Butler Courtyard, which I have spoken to Chuck Carucci about. There's an area that he and I spoke about outside, actually,
yeah.
to the right of the main entrance from the
Yeah.
gymnasium. There's
Yeah.
kind of that
Yep, that's
cutout
nice
area.
courtyard there, yeah.
So if you're okay with me moving forward with that, I'm happy to do that. I just it hasn't been done because I think it was, thought that there would need to be a more comprehensive plan to do that.
Maybe you can come back to us.
With a
at our next
proposed
meeting,
layout?
maybe after with a proposed
Yeah.
layout, and then,
I'd just like to see us move on.
yeah.
Why don't we do that? Why don't I come with some ideas to
Yeah.
share with you at the next meeting?
Yeah.
And if you like them,
Yeah.
rather than do something before.
Mel brought up the Charles Jones. I think what we need to do, I
Well,
thought.
that has to be approved by the town meeting.
Right,
still,
exactly.
Right.
But
Got
we
it.
haven't voted on it yet either. So what I'd like
Right.
to do is see, John, if it's okay with the chair, to put it on the agenda for the next meeting so we can take a vote on it, because that's going to require us to send it to the
meeting.
selectmen for a warrant article and
Right.
get it on the June town
Right.
meeting warrant too, so.
But Jerry mentioned, the other thing I just wanted to say was, talk about great community use of a space. And it was great not only because they had that huge Christmas fair going on Main Street, which was unbelievable. I mean, they had entertainment. It was awesome. And then you had, in the gym, while that was going on, you had 3 or 4 teams
Basketball.
practicing, basketball teams. I mean, this place is getting used, and that's what it's meant for. It's a school, but it's meant for use by the community.
And the beauty of it, the Main Street was being used for this community event, but it was to benefit the North Reading Haunted
right.
Productions with the middle school
Right,
theater
right.
group. So that it was absolutely, it was unbelievable. It looked like the Burlington Mall out here at
It
Christmas
did.
time on Main Street. It was unreal.
It was good.
And there were a lot of people there
Yeah.
too for a period of time. And the people that organized it did an unbelievable job.
Yeah.
Hugely successful
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
And from what I understand, I don't believe they had a lot of time to
They
get it
didn't.
organized,
They
so.
did not have a lot of
it's
time.
Quite
Did a
impressive.
Very nice job.
Yeah, it really was nice.
Everything from the lamp posts that I guess some middle school parents had made and teachers, and they had lights hanging, and they had a stage for the performers, and
Yeah.
they had.
They had live entertainment almost the entire
Yeah, it was
time
great.
that it was open. It was
They had
really.
have
really
a
good.
picture taken with Santa Claus. I saw Jerry was up there asking for
Yeah.
stuff for Christmas.
It's the only way I'm gonna get anything.
But it was great. I just wanted to mention
was.
that.
That was
Very
really
nice.
nice.
Yeah, to see the school used like that.
Okay, I'll put that on the agenda, and I'll come back, I'll circulate some ideas to you as part of your packet, and we can talk about those on the 30th.
Okay. Next, we have Vado, is that how you pronounce it?
Michael Vado, yes.
Okay. The Adventure Club Advisor with Reagan Davenport.
So, Madam Chairman, I think Mr. Votto and Reagan have a PowerPoint presentation they want to walk through. I think you should have a copy in your
Yep.
packet, paper copy.
You can stay here if you want to take my seat.
Good, Mr. Votto? All right. Good to go. Yes.
Oh, put a,
You know what? I'm going to give you this here.
perfect.
He gave it to me.
Oh, he's got one.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for hearing us out here in the North Reading High School Adventure Club trip proposals that are out of state. With me, I have senior student Reagan Davenport, and she's one of our class officers. And my name is Michael Votto, and I'm the club advisor.
We are taking a weekend trip to Loon Mountain, New Hampshire, and it's a 2-night trip, and we took it last year, and we had a fabulous time. And the dates of the trip are January 8th through the 10th. We will be staying 2 nights, Friday and Saturday, with all-day skiing on Saturday and Sunday, and we will be coming home on Sunday evening, and it will include 2 breakfasts and 2 dinners.
We'll leave on Friday after school, and we'll head on up, and we'll have some pizza when we get there, and
ski on Saturday. We'll be out there all day. And on Saturday night, we'll come back to a nice dinner. We stayed at this place last year. It's called Woodward's Resort. It's really nice. It's cool. There's a little ice rink right out front, and they have skates you can use that are included. And there's a pool there and a game room. It's a really good time that we had last year.
And the cost of the weekend trip is per person, which would include the bus fee. And for one of our trips near the end of the year, we will be going indoor skydiving in Nashua, New Hampshire for an early winter/spring 2016.
Another trip that we're looking to do in the spring as well, when the weather looks good, is just over the border. It's a place called Sculptured Rocks. It's a nice area. It's been carved out by some water. It'll be a really nice trip as long as the weather's good and the student interest is there. So we'd like permission to be able to do that as well.
And in late May or early June, we will be taking a day hike in Keene, New Hampshire.
I'll be chaperoning the trip, and we will have at least one other chaperone, because when we get 20 students, we have 2 comps. And those are some of the list of some of the people. Ms. Claudia Brown, you know her from last year. She ran the trip last year. And Mr. Madison's a big skier, and so is Ms. Buckley. So I'm sure one of those guys would be very interested in coming. And also maybe perhaps somebody in this room, if you're feeling up for the adventure.
Gary, you're a big skier, aren't you? Where are you?
There's the enthusiasm we're looking for at Adventure Club. And we have some contact information here of the people we've been working with. It's not our first time working with them. They're super responsive and very good crew. And my email, my cell phone are up there if you guys have any questions for us. And that concludes our presentation, unless you have any specific questions.
So John, the only one we have to approve is the overnight one, right? Or do we have to approve?
And out of state, even a day trip
Oh,
out of state.
all out of state? Okay.
So I think what's happened historically is the club has come one time to present
Right.
any of the trips for the year.
Yeah.
And so if the committee wishes, they can approve them all in one, as one group.
And then the chaperones, again, it's 1 for every 10.
One for every 10.
So anything
Correct.
over 20, if you have 21, they need to have 3, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
How many went last year? I believe my son was one of them.
Students?
Yeah.
I helped Claudia run it. I want to say we had about 25 students last time. Yep.
And is there a cap on how many students you can take?
I think we wouldn't fill more than one bus, and I think that bus could hold 40. So I don't think it would get to that high. I think it's going to be right around 20 to 25 students. That's kind of where I'm thinking it will be.
Any questions?
Nope.
Looks like a lot of fun.
It's going to be great.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed trips for the North Reading High School Adventure Club.
Second?
Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Override? Okay.
Thank you. Nice job.
Next, we have the principal of the North Reading Middle School, Ms. O'Connell.
You have slides too, Ms. O'Connell?
No, I don't.
Oh, good, so, no, that's good, so we can sit here, we don't have to move.
No, I don't have slides.
Great.
I have 2 different proposals, I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
the order they are in your packet. Does it matter?
No, DC trip was first. in the
Yeah.
past,
So I'm coming tonight, thank you for having me, to ask your permission for our annual Washington DC trip. Hope everyone can hear me. The dates for the trip are June 13th through June 17th. The cost of the trip is down actually a little bit, $793. Last year it was $798. The reason for the price difference is last year we went to the Kennedy Center and saw Sheer Madness. And this year the Nationals are in town. So we thought a little variety would change it up and go to see the Nationals play the Chicago Cubs. So it's just a different different option and brings the cost down a little bit. Other than that, the itinerary is pretty much the same. Typically, we have about 180, 190 kids go out of, approximately 200 and something students. So it's a large percentage of students are typically interested and want to go. We do offer a day trip alternative, which I believe I've given you a draft itinerary. And as in years past, we do our very best to offer a comparable experience with, staying in Massachusetts. And typically, we have anywhere from 20 or 30 students at most who take advantage of that. Very few students, a handful, elect to stay at school, and we offer that as well. And we, put some opportunities for them to participate in at the middle school. And, should that happen this year, it'll be really nice to be sharing the campus. We may be able to do some transitioning for those 8th grade students and have them maybe spend the day shadowing at the high school. I think that will be something we will consider, being in such close proximity to the high school. So that was my first presentation tonight, is to ask for your permission or your consideration for approval of the Washington, D.C. trip. I'm not sure if there are any questions.
No, I mean, every year, if you look at the itinerary, it's an unbelievable itinerary for the trip. You couldn't have a more educational value than a trip than you have here. And Kathy's been really good about bringing back the same number of kids she brings down there, so. So for the most part, it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it's worked out well, yeah.
And you know what? I give you credit, because it's a challenge.
It is.
Taking all those kids down there and not having.
We couldn't do it without the community support,
Yeah.
because every year we have about half parents and half teachers who help chaperone and really do, we bring 20 or so adults with us.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it is.
Keeping account of,
It's exhausting.
200
having
eighth graders.
chaperoned ones.
It is.
This is a little like
Yeah.
herding cats.
And the alternative schedule, Kathy said it was comparable. It's a good alternative. It's some educational value, some social value in there, and it's not the same as the trip. It's too bad every kid can't go on the
We
trip.
encourage all children to consider the trip with their families and choose the best trip for them
Yeah.
as individual students. For some students, I think myself as an 8th grader, going out of state for a whole week, it's a lot. So staying home and at least getting the day trip option is something that we want to make sure we provide.
Great trip.
And we do make a tremendous effort to provide scholarships also. As
Yes,
necessary.
the company, for every paid full bus, which we typically fill 4 buses, they give a full scholarship, which is great. Our PTO has been generous every year since I've been principal with paying, basically 3 full scholarships. And then our actual 8th grade class as a family have donated money to offset the cost for children who have a hardship. So that, to the best of my knowledge, has not ever been a reason for a child not to go, financial reasons.
Good.
I think it's awesome.
And I like the alternative. I think there's some good educational stuff in the, in the stay-at-home tour around the Boston area. And there's some fun stuff, which is kind of the same thing they'll be doing.
It's even more educational in some ways. You're having a tour of Fenway Park.
Exactly.
That's.
Not many people get to do that.
I just
So-
had one question. The timeline for the day trips is the week prior to the trip to DC?
This is just a draft, so I just pulled last year's
Okay,
draft.
so it will happen while the kids.
It will be the same week.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Thank you.
I just put, this was,
Good catch.
they,
I got
they
a little
put
nervous.
together, they finalized the itinerary as we get closer to the spring. So this was last year's itinerary. Nothing much will change. I know the Constitution, I don't think they were able to get on last year either. I think they had closed it for renovations, but they can see the museum and everything still.
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve the 8th grade middle school trip to Washington, D.C., as outlined by the principal.
Second?
Seconded.
All right. Any further questions, concerns, or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
And then my second request is your approval of a pilot club that's actually been running informally for the last few years under my direction. It's an early act club. I believe there's an early act club at the elementary level. It's part of the Rotary organization. So early act is a club for children that should help them lead into interact at the high school level. So I've been running an early act club at the middle school with there's no fee to be a part of the club. There's no advisor stipend or anything, but it's all about service. Basically, the group is tasked with coming up with 3 service projects, one for the school, one for the local community, and then one for the world. And last year, they created a small little banner for the middle school, welcome to your new middle school. And the North Reading Service Project was working with the food pantry. And then the World Project, and it's all student-driven. The World Project was to raise money to fund a mobile donkey library for a village in Egypt. So they were able to send funds to provide a mobile, a library that travels by donkey to villages with books, and all the kids research the charitable events that they want to contribute to. In years past, we've been able to put money towards a shelter box, which is everything that a family, I think of 4 or 5, needs to survive for, a week or 2, that you can send to, different parts of the world that are in need, whether it's emergency assistance or just for sustainability. So it's a great organization, and as I said, many of the kids, it is hoped then when they get to the high school will join Interact. And the bonus part is that for the last few years that we've been running it, high school kids have been the advisors. Since, way before we even became neighbors as we are today, I've really liked the idea of high school kids being peer mentors to middle school kids. So we've had senior advisors basically run the club, and I'm just there as, as a safety net, along with 2 Rotarians, Mike Walburn of the Reading Cooperative Bank, and the woman who owns Axel Studios, Jackie, I can't think of Jackie's last name. Sorry, Jackie. They also participate as local Rotarians. So it just never has been formalized as a club at North Reading Middle School. And this year I was actually stepping down as being the advisor and asked a teacher to see if there were any teachers who were willing to run the club. And actually one of our 7th grade science teachers, Laura Wall, is interested in running the club. But if it's formally accepted by the school committee, there would be a stipend. She would receive a small stipend. I think for 2 years it's piloted at $500. Right. So I was just asking your approval to formalize the club.
Does it run the entire school year? Is it active?
Yeah, it meets once or twice a month. And just, again, it's all around service.
So I don't want to, I think this is great. I don't want to muck it up, but I have to ask a question. There is a fee for the Interact Club at the high school, correct?
I can't say that definitively. Some of our service clubs did not have the fee attached.
There was one for the Interact a while ago, because
Yes.
we received complaints about it, but I'm not sure if there is now.
Well,
can't say.
I'm asking because I don't want to charge a fee, but if we aren't going to charge a fee for this, we either shouldn't charge a fee for Interact, or we should charge a fee for both.
So you would want to be consistent with.
I think we should be
Well,
consistent.
If the kids are, evolve from the middle school club into the high school club, they're eventually going to be paying the fee as well, so.
But I'm just asking because we're paying a stipend.
Yeah.
We weren't paying a stipend before. I'm not going to vote against it either way, but I just wanted to raise that as just an equity issue, that's all. Not,
Yeah, I don't know.
I honestly, I can't remember if the Interact Club was one of the ones that we didn't have a fee assigned to.
Okay.
There were some National Honor Society, for example.
We
It
have-
would be in the handbook.
We have 2 other clubs that I believe do not have a fee. Michael can correct me, but our student council, I don't think children pay to participate, and there is a stipend. And also, I don't think children pay for peer leaders, and there is a stipend. Not that that's not,
no,
you know.
but I don't think student council doesn't pay at the high school.
We can make a
right?
killing here, we could charge a fee for all of those.
No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for
Equity.
equity, that's
Yeah.
all.
Makes sense.
I never thought we should have a fee for the Interact Club at the high school because it's a community service club.
Now you're costing us money.
I know, but we have kids paying to help the community, and I've never.
I
had
recall
sense of that.
being at a discussion about a service club and
Yeah.
you deciding not to charge for it, but I
I
don't
don't
know
rem-
if
I
that
don't
was
remember
Honor
that.
Society or,
There
I don't know
a
if it was,
discussion years ago,
this.
You're right, about service clubs, and there was a decision made that some of the ones that were, again, for the service clubs,
Right.
the fee would not be attached. What I think ultimately ends up happening is most of the students that are involved are participating in some other club. This-
Right.
So they're paying a fee
Right, so they're gonna pay anyway.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that was true for every single student, but it was certainly the majority.
generally true.
So the other thing,
So if you go to the handbook, high school handbook,
Kathy, would they consider as the school-type activity,
right there.
doing some landscaping or something like that? 'Cause
They
I would waive
would.
the fee for
Yeah,
that.
They actually
seriously,
planted
like,
at the old middle school, not last
Yeah.
year, but at the original middle school, they planted mums one year. That was something that they bought the planters
Yeah.
and actually I wanted to, quick story, I wanted to take the planters up here because they were beautiful and they were donated by the kids. And during one of the yard sales that we had,
they were gone.
someone took
Someone
them.
bought them?
Someone took them. No,
they
someone
took
took them.
Just took them, yeah.
Really?
So if
Jay,
you have those
Those were
planters.
yard sales without the sale.
Yeah.
They were
Without the
yard
sale, yeah.
takeaways,
Yes.
basically.
People-
But I'm in favor of this. John, if you can't find out, just if you can check with, I
So the
mean,
wish is to be consistent. Here's the list right here. It doesn't say if they, it doesn't, it just says what the clubs are. But I will make sure of that.
but my guess is the
Whatever's-
majority of kids that participate in Interact are in one other club at least.
I would be willing to bet that it's most, if not all.
Right.
But I will. I'll work with
Okay.
Kathy
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
whatever the
All right.
application of the fee is or not.
And I'm not saying we have to apply the fee, I'm just,
Sure.
okay.
I understand.
Because I think getting kids involved in community service is something that we should be striving to do, and we shouldn't be charging them to do that.
Unless we can
Absolutely.
charge them and get away with it. I mean, it's- but, all right.
All right. Anyone like to make a motion?
Now, you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve for a 2-year pilot, the Early Act Club at the North Reading Middle School.
Second.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion-
Can I vote?
Oh, Cliff is abstaining for obvious reasons.
Yes.
Okay.
Got a one
Motion
abstention.
passes 4-0
Thank you.
to 1 abstention.
Thank
I
you,
didn't
Kathy.
say a
Thank
word,
you.
by the way, so
I noticed that. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right, because your daughter was,
I'm very,
okay.
very tight
Very-
with these things. I'm not going to violate any rules.
All right, next we have a presentation by the superintendent on the little roof.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, a little bit of information to share with you on the little school roof replacement project. So in your packet, you should have, and I think all of this had been sent to you previously electronically, the roofing options report from HAKS Engineering. I'm sorry if you didn't get the matrix. I attached it to my supplemental report tonight. I think that may have been left out of the packet. So in your supplemental report, it should be there. It's a 2-page, it's got a colored grid at the top. Sorry about that. And also, you should have kind of a white paper summary that the town administrator, Michael Gilberto, and I requested last week be provided to respond, I think, from the architect's viewpoint, on the value of a roof replacement as opposed to a roof repair. So I would just, in that third document, I would call, I think, your attention to page 3, which seems to be, for me, the most salient points raised around, thank you, Phil, raised around a replacement over a repair. So those are the 3 documents in your packet. They, with the exception of the white paper, the kind of the third document, the summary paper, the other 2 were discussed at a meeting on November 6th, at which Mr. Webster and Mr. Bowers attended, along with the town administrator, Mr. Yule from the Board of Selectmen, Michael Connolly, Mrs. Molly, the middle school principal, Wayne Hardiker, and we essentially went through, Abby Hurlbut of the Finance Committee. We essentially went through the information that had been provided, and the group discussed the roofing materials options. And in the end, I think it's fair to say that the consensus of the group was that that we would recommend the material to be used is the one that the architect and the project manager are recommending. So if you look at the 2-page, this document here, the color with the color at the top, that recommendation is kind of the pink column. It's the one commonly referred to as the SBS material. So that is essentially the consensus of the group from that meeting. Mr. Bowers and Mr. Webster were there. I don't know if either of you gentlemen want to add anything to the discussion, but I think essentially what we're looking for this evening, and Mr. Webster and Mr. Bowers can correct me, but I think both the Board of Selectmen, they're entertaining this at their meeting tonight. They knew the school committee was going to be entertaining it this evening, and I think the hope coming out of both meetings was that there would be a consensus around the material
I
selection.
think the Finance Committee is also reviewing it this week, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but. or
Yeah,
the-
I'm not aware of that. I do know Mrs. Hurlbut, I think, expressed,
Right.
you know, her opinion that the SBS,
Right.
the recommended option was the one to go with as well. But it would make sense to me that, that the Finance Committee would be entertaining that. I did share, because Mr. Kelleher, a member of the Finance Committee, had been attending the meetings up until the one that was held on November 6th. He was just unable to attend that one, but I did share with him, and I think it's fair to say that his opinion was that material was the suitable one as well. Not to say that the others aren't, but they were willing to go with the recommendation of the project manager and the architect.
A lot of information.
There is a lot of information, yeah. I mean, I do think that there was an expectation coming out of town meeting, and Michael Gilberto and I spoke about this last week, and, you know, I think it was the desire to make sure that we sufficiently considered a repair over a replacement, but I think the due diligence has been done, but I think in the end, it's fair to say that a replacement is just really putting a Band-Aid on things and
You mean a
kicking the
repair?
can down the road.
Yeah.
Excuse me, a
Repair is-
repair, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That a sorry about that. Rewind. That a repair is really just, you know, putting a Band-Aid on it, and that the full replacement of the scope of the project, as you all know it to be, is the way to go.
So are you looking for a vote of support?
I think it would be a vote. I think a vote is appropriate of this board. Yeah, I do, of your board.
I was at that meeting, and I think I was one that had a dissenting position on it, principally because it's about $115,000, $117,000 cheaper to do a membrane roof. But the other factor that's included in that is that in the choice for the SBS roof, which is the choice that consensus came to, was that there is a potential for kids principally, to get on the roof, and that the membrane roof is subject then to getting damaged more than the SBS roof would be damaged. And as a result, the SBS is more than likely the right approach. So I think in consideration of that, I think that the consensus of SBS is the right consensus.
Yeah, Principal Molly was present, and I had known about some of these issues, but they have regular issues over there with kids climbing on the roofs, and they found everything up on the roofs, from skateboards to empty beer bottles and cans to just a lot of stuff up there, and they've tried to remove all of the different areas that the kids are using to climb up, and they've been unsuccessful, and they've even had kids with bikes up on the roof. So, I think the material that Cliff, we all thought that was a good material and a good roof, but it just seemed like
Yes.
the recommended one would have a little more, wear and tear to it than the EPDM. So I'll make a motion to, that school committee support moving forward with the modified bitumen roof for the little school, as recommended by the architect and project manager.
Second that.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman, if you don't mind, just for the committee's information, so assuming that the Board of Selectmen acts in a similar fashion at their meeting tonight, which I expect that they will, we'll be informing the project manager of the decision tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll talk with the town administrator tomorrow to confirm that the Board of Selectmen took similar action. We'll inform Jeff D'Amico of our OPM of Compass of that decision, and I think it's fair to say that we are very much on track with our documents being
right.
submitted well before the stated deadline, which I think we had kind of been targeting as around November 27th, if I'm not mistaken, for a full
Right.
submission by December 9th.
Yep,
Right.
December 9th is the MSPA's deadline, but we expect to be able to submit by the end of the month.
Ahead of that.
Ahead of that, because they do have a lot of projects in the pipeline, and we want to kind of get a jump start on it.
And then construction would be the summer mainly, right?
I think right now, the information we have is that there would be some preliminary work beginning in early, mid-June, a little before the end of the school year, and that would continue through, in earnest through the summer, and then into September. We are working to make sure that any summer programs and things that we would typically house at the little school would be housed somewhere else in the district, so that there are no complicating factors.
They have camp there, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
right. So Michael's actually been working with Parks and Rec to speak, to work with them about a suitable location for them to have their programs, because the fewer impediments we have over at the
Right.
little school, the quicker the work can get done, the more we can be through with it, not affect the opening of the school year.
Is that the camp that's kind of moved around, or did we used to have
It
it at the
has.
middle school?
Yeah, exactly.
Just one thing, same one.
So I guess in all of that, what I'm hoping to convey to you all is we are very much on target with meeting our obligations to partner with the MSBA on this project.
Very good. Julie and Mel, would you like to?
Sure.
Sure.
Julie's going to start the slides. I will set up the discussion. So Julie and I have been driving this annual superintendent evaluation report. One of the things, obviously, it's an important aspect of our job. I will say, though, that, and I think Julie and I are in agreement on this, it's quite a cumbersome project. And it's something that the state has made much harder than it needs to be. I know Julie picked up some things recently when she was down at the MASS conference on Cape Cod, ways to make it more focused, make it a little easier for us. The other thing that I wanted to do tonight, but, I'm going to catch Julie off guard a little bit here. I'm thinking this might be a little bit difficult if the members don't have their individual forms in front of them where they made their different because in most cases, we are pretty consistent with our grading of the superintendent, but in some cases, some people grade it a little lower, in some cases, people grade it a little higher, and I think it's up to each individual, but to explain, to discuss why there are certain areas where we think the superintendent might need to improve, where we thought the superintendent exceeded expectations, where others thought the superintendent was just, met expectations, and then some cases where people didn't think he met expectations. So I'll leave that up as we go along. I'm going to note, I'll note the areas, once Julie goes through, where people had differences of opinion. And then, if people want to go into detail as to why they had different opinions, it's completely up to the individual members.
Sure. Okay, I'd like to start by first thanking and applauding John on his very thorough and organized approach to the whole process. As a new school committee member, your support was essential to help me head this particular group. He constructed a pretty comprehensive portfolio, chock full of lots and lots of artifacts. All of these items greatly helped me to complete my rubric. So I thank you again for the time and effort that you put into that portfolio.
I just had John do mine, so I don't know if that's, I'm supposed to do that or not. I'm only kidding.
So I'd like to begin by presenting our overall ratings. So as you can see from the first page of our rubric, step 1 is addressing superintendent goals. So overall, professional practice goals, we rated he met those goals. Student learning goals were met as well, and district improvement goals were met as well. Skipping down to step 2, you can see performance standards. Standard 1, instructional leadership, was proficient. Standard 2, management and operations, proficient as well. Standard 3, family and community engagement, proficient as well. Standard 4, professional culture, also proficient.
Julie, I just wanted to point out something here because proficient is a word I've had trouble with, and I know other committee members have, because it almost makes it, it's almost downplaying how well a superintendent is doing. But just to read the description, it says proficient practice is understood to be fully satisfactory. This is the rigorous expected level of performance. So I just want people to understand what proficient.
We, earlier, when I was on the evaluation subcommittee, we went through this, actually, this format came
Right.
out from the state.
Right.
And had proficient in big letters.
Exactly.
Bolded.
Right.
Versus.
Still does.
Still does.
the
It
other
still does.
categories.
It's like they almost force you to.
They're trying to
Yeah.
make the point that everybody is not exemplary.
Right.
In every category, and that's a unique position rather than in the normal
Right.
proficient.
I think that's right.
So if you go to the next page, step 3, overall summative performance, we rated John at proficient. There was a little bit of question about step 4, impact on student learning. And I actually found out at the school committee conference that that isn't a fully adopted part of the evaluation. We rated him anyway, and it was a moderate rating.
Yeah, and.
Any questions about that?
Well, when Julie and I discussed that, we were like, why is this in gray when everything else, so it's kind of like a in-process part of the evaluation,
It hasn't fully been
right?
adopted by the state yet.
Yeah.
And then we have step 5, which was, a narrative comments on John's performance here in North Reading.
Do you
Any
want,
questions on that?
I was thinking that, I'll gladly read it. I think the overall comments might be nice to be kind of read
Sure, do you
into
want
the
me to read
record. I'll read them, yeah.
Okay.
John has seamlessly transitioned from his role of high school, and I should say, this is kind of a compilation of all the various comments made by people. John has seamlessly transitioned from his role of high school principal to superintendent of North Reading Schools. He has had an excellent first year as our educational leader. John has faced trying times in the district, standardized test controversy, tight budgets, and the school building project. He's been actively involved in the successful openings of the high school and middle school. His leadership among various committees, school personnel, and construction teams during these challenging changes is commendable. In addition, he has been proactive in researching and procuring the anticipated MSBA's funding of the new Little School roof project. John has facilitated the hiring of key school department personnel, including a PPS director, a technology coordinator, and 3 digital learning specialists. In addition, he advocated for an increase in teaching staff at the high school to help reduce class size. He served an important role during teacher contract negotiations to help foster amicable negotiations and agreement among all parties. He's a master communicator and always keeps school committee members in the loop on school matters. John organized a heartfelt, inspiring opening school year program for all staff. He continues to advocate for the advancement of our school system among various district-wide committees and groups. John is clearly committed and devoted to the community of North Reading and to the success of our young people. So that's kind of what describes proficient. If you hear it in words.
So the next step, I feel we should go to page 3 and go through some of the indicators, because there was not always unanimous ratings. So I'd like to kind of start the discussion there. Okay, so looking at student learning goal number 2.
Right. So on student learning goal number 2, and again, on all 3 of these, you'll see John met expectations. But on student learning goal number 2, and I'm having a hard time seeing this through the color, we had
3 met.
three met, and 2 of us, significant progress being made on student learning goals. And so Janine and Julie had checked off significant progress. So if either one of you, Julie, if you want to
Sure.
give some of your comments on
Sure,
that.
so some of the reasons for significant progress, high school class size continues to be a concern. Smaller teacher-student ratios are our main goal and essential to maximizing student learning. I think there's, a desire and a need for more professional development for our staff, and that will enable improved instruction, standards, curriculum, and teaching strategies.
And what she said is exactly right, but your hands are tied to a certain degree too, because if you don't have the budget to hire more teachers or to give more professional days, then you can't really do it. So it's not a reflection that you can't provide it because it's your fault. But you've done such a great job in trying to advance, what you've done, so that's why I gave the significant progress.
And I think just to explain, so the way you do when you kind of do the aggregate score, because there were 3 met and 2 significant progress, then John receives a met that goal for the overall review.
Great. Moving on to district improvement goal number 3.
Right, we had 4 met and 1 exceeded. And the goal is, in order to develop a shared vision and strategic direction for the North Reading Public Schools and to assure an effective entry as the new leader of the school district, the superintendent will engage in a comprehensive entry plan process that will identify major findings and opportunities for inquiry and growth. As such, the district's most critical needs, the strategies and goals that will address those needs most effectively, and measures to assess progress towards goals will be developed. 4 of us had met, and Mr. Venezia had ranked exceeded expectations in that category. So
Yeah, and I guess the reason I put exceeded is I think the plan that John put together was pretty comprehensive. A lot of work had obviously gone into it. I mean, some of the areas I think are a little hard to measure in there, and I think that's probably why, to a certain extent, everybody else put met. But, again, I felt that an awful lot of time and effort had gone into John's plan, so.
Well, I thought he just copied and pasted.
I don't think he did. I think some people would do that, but I don't think John did. And it just seemed to take a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of work, so.
Great. Number 4. Do you want to address that, Mel?
Okay, so
3 met, 2 exceptions.
3 met, 2 exceed, right. Number 4 is, the goal is, the superintendent will sustain and/or enhance communication with all stakeholders, including students, faculty, parents, school committee, and the community as a whole. The superintendent will increase communication for the North Reading Public Schools to include information about the education of students, co-curricular activities, and other relevant information and topics that are pertinent to the social, emotional, and academic growth of students. Both Jerry and I rank John as exemplary in this area. From my point of view, a couple of reasons. One, when Kathy Willis was here, I think she instituted a tremendous communications program, and I think John has continued that and improved that with even more regular communications. The superintendent's newsletter, he's continued the TV, the cable TV program, the NORCAM program, NRPS, what's it called? Inside NRPS. And he's had a couple of difficult situations to communicate with parents in this school year, and I think he's done an excellent job with that, and been able to communicate to parents what's going on with their kids in the school system. So from my point of view, John exceeded expectations in this area. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think this is probably one of John's strongest attributes, is communication. And I think it carried over from his tenure as principal. We know he was here for 12 years as principal, but right into the superintendent's position. I remember talking to John about this and him saying he's got to, in his own mind, make a transition, that he's not the principal anymore, and he may not be able to have that type of interaction with as many students as he probably did when he was principal. This is an area, going back to Superintendent Troughton, Dr. Troughton, who was an excellent superintendent, but he was not great in this particular area. And so the transition from David to Kathy Willis to John has been, I think, a really positive community type of, outreach, not only with the community, but obviously in the school district as well, so.
And again,
that was an easy one for me, to be honest.
Majority of the committee ranked John as meeting expectations on that goal, so the overall ranking is he met expectations on that goal.
Great, so moving on to goal number 5.
Yeah, we had.
I'll summarize by
Go ahead.
saying the opening of the middle school, the successful opening of the middle school. We had 3 met, 2 exceeded, and I can give you my reasoning behind exceeding. I think John's worked tirelessly to ensure that the project adhered to our very strict timeline. He was very visible throughout the middle school construction, noting, addressing concerns immediately, and he led the middle school and central office staff through many moves.
Yeah, and again, I concur with Julie, but for me, this was another very easy one. I worked pretty closely with John, through getting the school ready and open. And I think it's been overlooked a little bit, and I don't know if John's going to address it later tonight or not, but not only getting the school ready to open, but the seamless integration of the middle school, high school population together, moving through the school. I mean, last year, we had the high school open with 800 students. So there was 800 kids eating lunch, there were 800 kids using the gym, there were 800 kids using the media center. This year, there were 1,400 kids. And I haven't heard a single complaint or a single, problem with moving the kids through the building. The traffic pattern, which I disagreed with John on opening day.
Both you and I disagreed with him.
I didn't think it was a great idea. It's worked out unbelievably. It's hard to believe that we can move the traffic through this complex, from the middle school and the high school, literally basically through one road. It's worked out very well, and I think it's a tribute to John and to his staff. I know Mr. LaPrette and the vice principals have done a lot of work on that as well. And I haven't heard a single comment about any problems with school opening this year, so.
I mean, the first day, there were complaints about the traffic, and that was it. Once everybody got used to it.
Yeah, but that was from the
one day.
complainants.
I know, that's what I'm saying. One day, but one day, and then.
Yeah, it was a really seamless opening, it really was, and I'll tell you, John, it starts at the top, but the custodial staff, the administrators, they work their butts off to get the school ready to open on September 9th this year, so, again, that was an easy one for me.
Great, so moving on to the performance standards. Standard 1, instructional leadership.
Right, and on this one, it ensures effective and timely supervision and evaluation of all staff in alignment with state regulations and contract provisions. We had 4 proficient and 1 needs improvement. Mr. Bowers, I don't know if you want to expound on your concern there, or?
I think I'd like to talk with John directly about.
Okay.
Okay.
But I think, so that's an area, and that's what part of this process is, and that Mr. Bowers can address this directly with John and specific issues that he has. So, but again, that was 4-1, so in terms of the overall rating, John met that performance standard.
Great. And then 1E, data-informed decision-making. We had an overall rating of proficient, 4 proficient, and 1 exemplary.
Right.
Would you like to?
1E, Janine, is that?
That's for you.
Oh, that's me. Too involved in the process. So, this is the one, I was pleased to see the establishment of a data lead at each school. I think that's an important step that we need to take to make sure we're using data in the right way and getting the most out of our data. So for that reason, I rank John as exemplary in that category.
Great, moving on to standard 2, management and operations. 2A, the environment.
2A.
We had an overall rating of proficient, 4 proficient, and 1 exemplary.
Right. That's,
Janine, do
Janine, you had
wanna share?
exemplary in
Yeah.
that. Let me read what it is
Yeah.
for us. It's environment develops and executes effective plans, procedures, routines, and operational systems to address a full range of safety, health, emotional, and social needs.
It probably just stems from your ability to communicate as effectively as you do, and knowing what you're working on, even though, other people may not know in advance. That's like the Alice, knowing that you've been working on that for as long as you have, and things of that nature. So it's pretty much just that.
Great, moving on to 2B, human resources management and development. We have an overall rating of proficient. This we had a few
Right.
ratings. We had a needs improvement, 3 proficient, and an exemplary.
Right, and I will, in terms of which number is this again? Two B?
Or not to be.
Okay. Very good. So my reasons for, I rank John exemplary in this category. The reason being, we had some real serious gaps in our senior administrative team. We tried to fill the PPS director position for a couple of years. We tried to fill a digital learning coordinator last year, and we were able to bring these people in under a tight timeline in difficult circumstances. And I think John, in leading his staff to find those people and get them in here and get them up and running quickly is critical to the district. So that's why I ranked exemplary. And again, in terms of the needs improvement, if that wants to be handled one-on-one, then that's fine. So we can move on to the next. Is that okay, Cliff? In terms of need improvement, handle that one-on-one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's linked with
The other one? Okay, thank
So
you.
moving on to standard 3, family and community engagement. Ensures that all families are welcome members of the classroom and school community and can contribute to the effectiveness of the classroom, school district, and community. We have an overall rating of exemplary. We have 3 exemplary, 2 proficient. And this kind of dovetails on what Mel was talking about, the fantastic communication that we see happening. You communicate with families regularly via email, and I also appreciate the non-school community events that happen. And the John Adams Impressionist that was brought in, I think you kind of ran with it, and I think it was a great program
Good.
for our,
That was
for our
very good.
community. So that was why I rated you there.
I also think, that superintendents and principals and teachers have to communicate within strict guidelines in terms of privacy. And that's one of the reasons I ranked an exemplary in this category, 3B. Is it 3B?
3A.
3A, because I think you have to, it's pretty tricky to communicate for our principals and administrators, for our administrators and principals, so. And Jerry also ranked exemplary in that category.
Yeah, and again, I think it's a strong suit of John's. I think everybody feels welcome here. He's got the patience of a saint, which, is polar opposite of me, so I really respect that.
Great. Moving on to 3B, sharing responsibility, continuously collaborating with families and community stakeholders to support student learning and development at home, school, and in the community. We have an overall rating of proficient, 4 proficient, 1 exemplary.
Yeah, and again, it's the same reasons that Jerry and I have discussed. I think John works really hard to bring the community into our discussions and decisions. So I felt he does an exemplary job in that category.
Yeah, and I think it's a combination of John, obviously, and the school committee, but I don't think it's unique. I think it probably happens in other school committee meetings, but we always engage the audience if they want to be involved in the discussion. If they have questions, we never exclude them. So I think they feel comfortable coming here and expressing themselves if that's what they choose to do, so.
Great. 3C, communication, engages in regular 2-way, culturally proficient communication with families and community stakeholders about student learning and performance. We had 3 proficient, 2 exemplary. Again, the incredible amount of emails that we're getting, the newsletters I appreciate. I love to see what's happening on the district level as well as at the school level.
Those are good,
And the Inside NRPS show. So,
Michael Connolly was my guest last week, so that should.
Oh, has that
Yes,
been
not gone
broadcast yet?
Phil's working on some graphics, so.
graphics.
Should be very soon.
Did we talk about Michael's running
TV
career
guide
at all?
rating
or-
it
Is it all business?
We
or-
want to advertise his Twitter account and some links to.
Yeah, but is it all business? Did we talk about his running and fitness, or?
We were pretty serious.
Oh, really?
We were pretty serious.
Next time, we'll have to get into his athletic career. I think your next guests should be the members of the North Reading girls soccer team.
I'm looking for.
Just think
guests.
about that. I think that's a good idea, or the coaches at least, because I think, again,
That's
it's
a
a
good idea, yeah.
first North champion ever. for girls
Sure, Mr.
soccer.
Colleen would be thrilled to be.
Mel and I have to take some credit for that because we really pushed hard for Mr. Colleen. to
Yes,
take
we
that
did.
job. I mean, we even gave him an exemption from being principal.
No, in fact, yeah, Jerry and I said if he could just be the soccer coach, he'd get his full salary as the soccer coach.
And he's earning it. He's
And
earning
he's
it.
earning it, yeah. So anyway, that was 3C, right?
3C. So moving on to 3D, family concerns, addresses family and community concerns in an equitable, effective, and efficient manner. We have an overall rating of proficient, 4 proficient, and 1 exemplary.
And again, same reasons. I think John is deeply committed to working with our families to make sure that they.
Yeah, and I could have given an exemplary in that too, now that I look at it retrospectively, but by the time we got to some of the stuff, I was ready to put a bullet in my head, so.
It is a long
The whole
process.
process. you
It
know,
is.
Went from the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Exactly.
That's true. Way back.
Okay, we have a few more to attack, and then we'll be done. Okay, so standard 4, professional culture. 4A, commitment to high standards. Fosters a shared commitment to high standards of service, teaching, and learning with high expectations for achievement for all. An overall rating of proficient, 4 proficient, 1 exemplary.
And I was exemplary, right? Was I
I
exemplary?
was
Oh,
exemplary.
you were, okay.
I feel that John handled some pretty interesting personnel issues that occurred, and I think it was handled in the utmost professionalism. He personally engaged with administrators and families to ensure proper remediation of those issues. So that's why it was an exemplary there. 4C, communication, demonstrates strong interpersonal written and verbal communication skills. An overall rating of exemplary, we have 2 proficient, 3 exemplary.
Why don't you go first?
So written and verbal communications are always clear and very much to the point. John listens and responds in an honest and tactful way.
And I didn't write that down, but I could have said the same exact
Yeah,
thing.
no, I agree, and I think, again, it's a strong suit of John's.
Yeah.
Communications, strong part of his personality, and you know, it's funny. I came to realize over the years that the relationship that you have with the community, with your own staff, with students is really important for the superintendent. It's just not being an administrator. It's being a little bit of a PR person. You know, it really is. I think it's an important function, important role of the superintendent, so.
PR, cheerleader.
Yeah, exactly. But it engenders confidence. I mean, when you're dealing with the Board of Selectmen, when you're dealing with the Finance Committee, when you're dealing with the community, when you're dealing with people at town meeting, you know, and Kathy Wilson was really good at this. I mean, and John has also done an excellent job.
And that's a great point, because if the other boards in town don't have confidence in the superintendent, it makes it a lot harder for us to.
It does.
To get things,
Absolutely.
so.
Great. And finally, 4E, shared vision, successfully and continuously engages all stakeholders in the creation of a shared educational vision in which every student is prepared to succeed in post-secondary education and become a responsible citizen and global contributor. We have an overall rating of proficient, 4 proficient, and 1 exemplary.
I'm not even sure why I put exemplary, other than the fact that I think John, I think.
Last one, Jack.
It was the end of the, no.
It was the last one on the list.
No, but I think he's very good at just taking input and taking information from, you know, whether it's the community, whether it's students, or faculty, staff. I think it's a strong suit, so.
So I think, you know, overall, the ranking is proficient. There were some categories exemplary. I think that we have some things to work on for next time, especially in terms of the cycle. I mean, Julie and I discussed, and this would be something that you would have to agree to, and or the school committee would have to agree to, is maybe changing the cycle and making the next one longer to get you back on the
More traditional.
the July through June cycle, so it goes more with the fiscal year, so a more traditional cycle. So that might mean the next cycle would be 18 months versus a year. Julie had some other ideas to make the process, I think, a little easier. There's also, you told me, and very little gets reported to the state, correct?
Right, the overall rating.
Right.
Gets reported, the one word.
That's basically all the state gets. So we go through all this work, all these hours,
Teachers, right?
and the state gets a word,
Right.
which is pretty interesting. You'd think that we could do that on our own without them telling us how to do it,
You
but.
would think.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, I have a whole different theory on evaluation. You either know that the person does it
Right.
well, you know, any of the
Right.
4 categories.
Right.
You know, 4, I put out 5 fingers to show you how tired I am, not. But you basically, when you work with somebody as a reviewer, you know where they stand. You don't have to go through this step-by-step process. It's the aggregate that you look at.
Right.
And, you know, I think it's helpful to perhaps go through some sort of a thought process in it, to hit all the steps, you know, where can a person improve? But evaluation should always be about where improvement can be made.
Correct.
And, you know, that's what we do with
Yeah.
teachers, that's the process there, it's what we do with, we should do with everyone.
Yep.
And that really is the benefit of an evaluation process.
I agree.
Point well taken.
And all of these steps that we've gone through in this, and the matrix, you know, it's very cumbersome.
Yes.
In fact, it's way too cumbersome to get at what really you want to look at.
Well, that's what Julie
And-
has some input
You know,
on.
during the school committee conference a couple weeks ago, they actually had one whole session on superintendent evaluation, and they had some speakers and they had some school committee members present and explain how their district does it. And I think there's some room for streamlining things. I wasn't aware that we could have pared down the indicator list. So there's, you know, we can have conceivably 10 to 12 indicators that we're using, not all 65. So I think that, I see that very important, that maybe perhaps during some sort of brainstorming session, planning session, that we do that together, John and us as a committee. Because I think 65, you know, I did not feel equipped enough to answer some of these questions. I appreciate the portfolio,
Yep.
and I think it was very comprehensive, and it helped me make my decisions. But I think honestly, there's way too many things that
When the first evaluation stuff came out from I think it was MASC that put out the
Yeah.
first part of it.
Yeah.
And it came out as a humongous matrix.
Oh, yeah, I remember, yeah.
And I actually stuck it all together. And when I mentioned Dead Sea Scrolls, I wasn't talking about the original ones. I was talking about the ones out of MASC. And I put it together and rolled it up. It was very,
I remember that.
very long
Yeah.
thing, with all fine print in it. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. You know, and throughout my professional career, I worked with evaluating people, professionals, and with 2 different companies, but looking at all of the matrix that you know came out, they were all baloney, really, when you get down to it. What you're dealing with is, how did the person do, what are their...
Right, is the
what are
person
their
doing his
strengths
job?
And what are their weaknesses?
Right, and what are the results of that job? Are the results there? Yeah.
Right, it's results that matter.
Right.
And so what are the person's strengths and weaknesses? Where can they improve? If, you know, everybody, some people really don't have weaknesses. They're
Right.
just, you know, they could improve in something, and everyone can improve in
Right.
something.
Well,
So-
not me. I wouldn't go that far, but
Well,
Jerry and I are probably above that, but.
But, well, it makes 3 of us. You know, what can I say?
How come you guys aren't chiming in?
You know, beyond
You don't
that,
want to.
we all can improve.
No, you're right.
You know,
And-
you bring up a really good point, Cliff, because I'm sitting here just making some notes, and getting away from exemplary proficient, needs improvement, and all
Right.
that. My evaluation of John's performance over his first year, and it's been just a little bit over a year, is that it was excellent. I'm not using the word exemplary, it was excellent. There's a lot of places where you can stumble coming into a situation like that, and I don't think John stumbled at all. I think there was some difficult areas that he had to deal with. As Mel pointed out, he hired some people that were long time, we were trying to fill those positions. But one of the things I like, John, and I've observed it very closely, is that the team approach you have with Michael and Patrick in particular. And I think that's a good approach, that you're willing to delegate to Michael, willing to delegate to Patrick different responsibilities without any concern about them you know,
Never.
having the spotlight in certain areas. And I think that's a very, very smart way to approach things. And I think, again, stepping into, you know, having to deal with the opening of the high school, the opening of the middle school, getting everything ready for a smooth transition. I think all those things, dealing with the park issue, the MCAS issue, and I know that you had, you know, concerns about that, and you know, Patrick made the presentation, and you supported it, and taking the initiative on the little school roof. So I think there were a lot of things that you did that I would say that you did an excellent job in your first year.
I think I say that too, and I would add that it can be a blessing and a curse to follow a highly popular and successful superintendent, because, you know, it's great because there aren't a lot of problems evident, because, you know, the superintendent was doing a great job, but it's difficult because you have to live up to those expectations. And in this community's mind, this community fell in love with Kathy Willis, you know, from day one. I also
She just
think.
left us.
And then she left.
Very
us.
little warning.
Right.
But go ahead.
Well, I'll say, John stepped in not at the regular time. He stepped in October, which isn't easy, stepping in the middle of kind of the fiscal year. And then the third thing I'll say is, I think the next year, or year and a half, whatever the next amount of time is that we agree on to review John again, is probably more critical, because now John is established, and now we're going to start seeing, you know, more results that are more John's doing. John's been here for a year, and now, you know, we'll start to see the fruits of that work. And I think the next year and a half are extremely important.
But we also took a chance. I mean, we did an internal search.
Right.
We basically, you know, gave the job to John and see if he could run with it, and he's
We
done
did.
that. You know,
Right.
so
Right.
congratulations.
I appreciate
on a good
that.
first
Thank
year.
you.
We're lucky to have you.
My
Thank you.
comment from the beginning was that Kathy Willis's seat was a big seat to fill.
Absolutely.
She did a fantastic job, and John stepped up and
Yeah.
has filled it.
And look at the sports.
appreciate
Look
that.
at the sports teams in the fall. I mean, how can we look at the football team, Cliff? I mean,
I think that's more attributable to the school committee than the superintendent. but, yeah. But-
Could I offer a comment?
yes.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank you all for, number one, the time that you put into this process, and thank you very much for your kind words. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge, and Jerry, I thank you for saying it, but Michael and Michael Connolly and Patrick Daly, and I would like to add Cynthia Conan, and although she's only been on the job since July, as the other three central office administrators have been hugely helpful to me. And I have a wonderful administrative council. I mean, I was fortunate to have worked in the district for a long time and got to know people very well, and had what I think were some very good working relationships that have contributed greatly to whatever level of success people think that we have as a district. I happen to think it's very high, and so it does not happen with one person, clearly. I am very blessed to work with the people that I work with. We have wonderful students that come to school prepared to learn. That's a credit to their parents. We have great teachers that work very, very hard in support of students. If I was to point to one thing that I think has been the greatest learning experience for me over the last 13 months or so, it's been my exposure to the elementary schools. I have thoroughly enjoyed being in the elementary schools and learning about them because it had never been a part of my career. All of my work was at the secondary level. It was all at the high school level, but I felt as though I had good experience with the middle school because of the natural transitions that occur from middle school to high school. But getting to experience the elementary schools in the way that I have, and I hope I've spent a good amount of time in those schools to see the good work that's going on. And people just work so hard and care so much about what they do. So in summary, what I would say to you is it's not about one person. I'm very thankful for your kind words, the support that you give to me. As I said in my email to all of you on Friday when Julie dropped off the document to me, the community is very fortunate to have you all as advocates for the children of this district. It's not that way everywhere. I know that, and North Reading is very fortunate. So it is true. People don't fully understand, unfortunately, I think, the commitment that you all make as volunteers and the advocacy, that you instill. I think the results speak for themselves. So thank you. Thank you for the insights that you've given to me. There is more work to be done. Certainly there are areas where I know I need to grow. I appreciate the feedback very much. I'm very pleased with the evaluation. I hope I've up to this point lived up to your expectations, and I'm committed to working very hard to continue to grow personally, professionally, and also to to help the district continue to advance. So thank you very much.
I just wanted to add two things. One, I wanted to thank Julie. I said, you can take the lead on this, and she took the lead and ran with it. It was actually fun. We were going to have an hour meeting, which ended up being about 3.5 hours. We spent about an hour on this and 2 hours on everything else related to education. And it was actually a really
Good.
fun discussion. So thank you for taking the lead on it. And then two, I think probably our next step should be, we should have a evaluation subcommittee meeting and then decide which steps we take to move forward in terms of how we're going to do this the next.
Right, I mean, the recommendation that I got, at this session was actually to set up a retreat type setting. I know we do that in the summer. I don't know how,
Something like Foxwoods or Mohegan.
well, no, I think we'd have to stay here.
I think
Oh, we have to stay here.
Yeah, it'll be
Stay
public
here.
meeting, right, basically?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, I thought that.
So, I mean, that, we could work through the goal setting in, a setting like that. I guess that's something in subcommittee we
Yeah, we
can
can talk about that,
discuss
yeah.
and
Look
bring
forward.
forward and
Yeah.
see your feelings
I know
on
you
that.
love goals. Jerry loves goals meetings, so any of the
And
more
retreats.
Goals, yes, and retreats. Although his retreats are different than probably the retreats that we would.
No, but Julie did a good job on this. That
She
was,
did
she
an
make
excellent
make
job.
us look good when you do
you.
work like that.
And I have to say, not that I didn't have high expectations of Julie, but only being on the committee for less than a year, it's a pretty big task, so.
And the less Mel can do, the better, so it was good that you picked up. you know.
Yeah, she took it and ran with it, so
Thank you.
I was very happy with that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Through the approval of the minutes, if I could get a motion for approval of the October 19th executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any concerns, questions, or, nope? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
I move to approve the October 19th open session meetings.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I think I beat him just by like.
All right. Any comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Could I get a motion for the executive session of November 2nd?
Motion to approve executive session minutes from November 2nd, 2015.
A second.
All right. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Motion passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. And for the open meeting of November 2nd?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes
Abstain.
4-0-1. Mr. Conley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this evening, the November budget report was included in your packet, really summarizing financial activity from July really through November, so a little bit greater than the first quarter of financial activity. Again, the report is broken down into expenses and payroll information, and again, not a lot of new information from the October report. I think a lot of the same drivers and trends are, continue to be the case, through about mid-November to this point of the fiscal year. We've encumbered the majority of expenses at this point in the year, and again, expenses certainly remain within budgeted ranges. I will note again that special education tuitions, you will see on the report that there is a projected surplus in this area. This really is the result of a couple of factors, as I've mentioned in the past in prior reports. We did prepay, as we've done over the past several years, special education tuitions, and we did exceed the amount of prepayments that we had budgeted during the budget process. Again, that is helping provide some additional level of flexibility that will help us address unforeseen costs this fiscal year. But the majority of this reflected surplus is really the result of the fact that we have about 29 students tuitioned out at this point in the fiscal year, when we really forecasted during the budget season for 32 students. So we included some some buffers or some known information based on what we had known during the budget process, and we're a little bit under that at this point in time.
Now, that could change, Michael,
Right.
over the course.
Correct.
of the rest of the
That's an
fiscal year.
uncontrollable
So,
situation,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it is. So, so moving forward, some of the other major drivers we have discussed, again, you'll notice that the majority of utility costs at this point are encumbered. We will continue to watch utility expenses, and particularly at this building, it'll be important that we watch these trends, and certainly as we begin to, the budget process for fiscal 2017, which we did begin already.
So Michael, on that, I think I've asked you this before, we can't measure use on a daily basis, right? It's just monthly, or could we, because I'm just interested in seeing, for example, we've had some really warm days in November. I'd like to see, if we could see like, geez, and on November 10th, it was 65 degrees, and, you know, we spent 4 cents, and, I mean, I'd like to see if it really, how efficient the building is.
Sure.
I don't know if that makes sense to do it on a daily basis. You know, Cliff would know better than I would know.
Talking
but
about this building?
This and the other
The other
building.
building?
I think you're asking for.
Too much.
A level of detail that is just
Yeah, not-
impossible.
okay.
for-
That's what I
It's a
figured.
challenge. I mean, we get the monthly
Right.
invoices where we do analyze
Yeah.
the usage. We do watch the level of therms from gas that we're spending on a monthly basis. We compare and watch trends. If something at a particular building or meter looks off, or there's an outlier for whatever reason, certainly I give that information to Wayne, and we research it and analyze it.
See, I'd be interested in, for example, comparing this November to last November
Sure.
because of how warm this November has
Yeah.
been.
We can do
right.
that.
We do that.
Yeah.
We do that on a monthly basis.
And having the new school versus that old high
Yeah.
school.
The other thing we watch is the heating degree day.
Right.
And how much that is either, how much of that is the norm or typical for that month.
Okay.
And,
That's based on,
we analyze
if you're picking it off the weather service.
Correct.
it's,
Right.
Based
Yeah.
on a temperature of 65 degrees.
Mhm.
Right.
Which is, I always have to put a correction factor.
Anything below 65, they say is.
Seven times the days.
Right.
Correct.
To get to
Correct.
the comparison. But you can quite easily do a monthly thing.
Monthly
because you got
yeah.
a monthly bill.
do that. We get the monthly
Versus
bill.
last year, at
Yeah.
the same time.
I would like to see what, you
Yeah.
know, what's versus the old high
And
school.
we've been tracking, so we get all the monthly invoices on a, at the end of each month. Some of it's a mid-month cycle, but every invoice we get, we chart the invoice, the usage, the therms at every school, at every meter, and then we analyze it to either the prior month or the prior month at the same time. We have about 15 years of history in one master spreadsheet that's updated
Oh, great.
every month, and we analyze that information, and when something does look off, we research it, and then we actually use that to then help us build the next year's budget. We look at the market pricing, but we look at the usage as well. So that's kind of the process we go through, and I would say Wayne Hardacre is pretty aggressive at when it does seem like something was off, researching it and figuring out what may have occurred, and et cetera. And we have reached out at different times to not only the gas company and Direct Energy, who we work with, but we've reached out to RMLD and researched certain issues. And sometimes it's a billing error or a billing issue on their end that we've discovered by tracking it that closely.
Good.
Great. The other major item I wanted to highlight, as I do every month really, is the food service program. We did close out the month of October. And we did close October with a loss, but I will say the loss was projected, and it was a loss that was definitely less than a loss last October at this time, so.
But it was higher than what you had budgeted.
No,
It says
it
the
was-
loss was
correct.
because this one befuddles me, because it says that meals sold per day at the middle school increased by 29% compared to last October. So I don't understand how do we still have a loss? I don't.
So
Shouldn't we, if meals go up 29%, it's pretty substantial, right?
That is the case. So the middle school the meal count of the middle school has been substantial. So
Yeah.
it was 32% last month, it's 29% this month. The other schools have been essentially the same. The high school experienced a 15% increase over September, when we closed out September. So when we closed out October, it was the same as last October. So the high school this month was leveled off.
So I guess my question is, if we're seeing an increase like that at the middle school, the other schools are staying the same or increasing, to me, there's just like something wrong. If we're seeing that kind of increase, then there's something wrong with the cost structure. I'm not saying that you have all the
No,
answers.
I think part of it is when we sit down with certainly Chartwells who help us build the budget and provide the budget, they look at, a lot of things could have averaged over the 10-month cycle, and they do expect that when we have, months where there's more operating days, March and May, for instance, that those are the months that they expect to hopefully exceed the budgeted amounts and perform very well and catch up. In some of the earlier months, particularly September, October, there's a lot of startup supplies, and I would say production costs are higher.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of cases, from what I've seen the last 2 years, the way that I've seen them to do it, because I've been watching those trends as well, and to see, why we had a pretty good month in terms of mail counts per sold, and, why we still higher than the loss than we projected. But I think a lot of.
We're subsidizing the program with $45,000 this year, right? That's our budget
Correct. That's
subsidy,
the goal.
which is lower than it has been.
Lower, so it was
much lower than
55
it
a year
has been in
ago.
the past, right.
Yeah, so it's lower.
So, but our goal is to try to get it to break even
Right.
at some time in the future.
And I think a big part of why the loss maybe in these first 2 months is because of the startup costs of the supplies that they're purchasing to start the year. Personnel costs are a little bit higher in the first opening months, and I think a lot of those expenses from a budget perspective are sort of averaged over the 10 months. So I think the important trends to look at is the fact that participation seems to be increasing. Mail counts per sold a day are not going down at the elementary levels. They're staying, and they were up a little bit last year, so they're staying up. The trend, we're not losing any students, and the middle school and the high school continue to look strong. And the a la carte sales are up, adult sales are slightly up. We have done a little bit more catering and captured some catering sales. So everything that we'd want to be seeing to analyze the program's success is from a revenue and a participation standpoint is there.
Okay.
And I think they did a pretty good job at managing costs last year after the first opening months, and we're going to look for them to do that again this year to minimize the loss. So I think we're not too far off from the projection that we'll see hopefully end the year at around a $22,000 to $23,000 loss, which would be, again, almost half of what it was a year ago.
Right. Okay.
So I think we're a little bit over that, but I anticipate us that we'll catch up as we move forward.
All right.
Michael, I have one question. What information can Chartwell give us as far as making us reach, level?
A break-even program.
A break-even program. Like cost of lunches, food offerings, like do they offer any information to us?
They presented to us.
They presented
each of the
to
last
us,
2 years with very thorough, very good
yeah.
presentation with the things they were trying to do.
So,
promote.
If those types of things have worked in other systems or?
Yep, so part of the process we went through when we awarded Chartwell's the contract, when we went through that extensive analysis a couple of years ago, was we asked them to put together a key action plan of things that we felt they could do, maybe we haven't done in the past, that would maybe help capture additional revenue and narrow that profit loss. And I think they put together 4 or 5 steps, of which I've seen them kind of make do on, one of which is the added breakfast program at the secondary level. Last year, they continued that this year. So they are additional options and a la carte options, which has certainly been attractive. I think the USDA regulations, which were very strict 3 or 4 years
Right,
ago.
they relaxed, so
they've
we're a
relaxed
victim
those-
of those
They've relaxed those
regulations.
regulations.
Right.
So part of it is, I think, the USDA has helped the situation, as well as, I think, students and families have kind of adjusted more to it, and they're starting to return back to the program. But the offerings are certainly good. The presentation, they've
Absolutely.
presented a lot of ideas around presentation and promotional ideas to get the students into the program. I think they've made do on that. The presentation is excellent.
They've been very responsible.
Yeah.
They have.
In fact, it may be time for them, I don't know when
come
the
in.
last time they were,
Right.
but they
I
were.
was just going to mention that.
One year they came in and fed us.
Yeah,
I
it was
believe it
great.
was on,
And they-
on these, I believe it is on our schedule, that we're going to see them around
but
mid-year.
They've been good. I mean,
Yeah.
To give them a mid-year update.
Great.
So, yeah, I think all in all, they've done a pretty good job. They've talked about managing costs. They've talked about, we've done a pretty good job, I think, analyzing the meals per labor analysis and looking at trying to bring the hours more to industry standard. 2 or 3 years ago, when we did an analysis of the program, we were well below industry standard, and we've really brought those, and I analyze that every month too, by looking at the meal counts and the hours that the personnel is working, and those are very much in line with what would be the industry standard, between 12 and 16 hours meal per labor. So I think we've done a lot of good things to minimize that, and I think, I think we're close. We're certainly, certainly, I think a few years ago, it looked like a very daunting task to
Yes.
get back to a potential break even, and I think we're getting close to that. It's more realistic, it's more feasible.
I think 3 years ago, we were subsidizing by the amount of like $70,000.
I think it might have even been a little bit, I think it was like 80,
Been great,
yeah.
yeah, it was great.
So we've brought it
Right.
down significantly.
Yeah.
Great.
Do you mind just, if I could ask,
Sure.
offer a comment? I think that when we went through the last time of offering up the contract to Chartwell's, I think there was a great deal of optimism or even hope that we would realize some increase at the middle school when the two buildings came together, when the middle and the high school were together online, and I think it's good to see, we were relying, I think, a lot on the fact
Right.
that there would be some gains at the middle school level, and so far, I mean, it's early still, but that has happened. I think that there was, I think Anna McGovern has worked very hard to adopt the high school mentality with the middle school lunch program. I think the high school program was better.
Yeah.
And I think that whatever methodologies they were using, presentation
Right.
and such, the a la carte, I mean, they've moved that to the middle school. I think that they're pleased, they're working hard to capture that, and I think that so far that's been
And it's
successful.
a state-of-the-art kitchen.
Very, she's very good.
Very responsive to
I
everything.
think it's fair to say she was a large part of the reason why
Yeah.
this district went with Chartwell's again. I mean, she's very good to work with.
And the equipment they have, I mean, state-of-the-art equipment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the facility is
Right.
second
Right.
to none.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
incredible. It
And they've
really
taken
is.
advantage of that. They're taking advantage of it, and that's a good thing.
One thing I will note along these lines is we are up for a coordinated program review of our food service program this year. So we were notified at the end of last year that this would be a year that they would come out. They come out about once every 5 years.
Is that a federal review or state?
It's a state review similar to what coordinated, CPR that the SPED department just went through. So the Department of Education will come out. We haven't gotten the date, the week that they'll visit, but we did, both Anna McGovern and I attended a training along with the other districts that were chosen this year, and it's just a 5-year cycle, so we're up this year. So we are preparing for that, and so that we'll see what kind of information comes out of that process. But I'll keep you updated to when that will take place. Great. So moving on in switching gears to payroll, again, the majority of payroll expenses are certainly within budgeted ranges. I've been referencing that we are, at the moment, I'm looking, it's a difficult number to project, but when you're looking at the substitute budget because of the extensive number of long-term substitutes we've appointed for long-term extended leave of absences, it does appear at the moment that we will exceed our substitute budget, but we'll certainly watch that. It could level out as we move throughout the fiscal year. Really, all other line items are certainly well within budgeted ranges, and I think we're still in pretty good shape here. As it's hard to believe, we're not too far off from the midway point of the fiscal year. But I'll open up to any other questions. Great.
Thank you, Mike.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a donation from the Little School PTO. If I could have a motion to accept?
Move to accept with gratitude the donation from the Little School PTO in the amount of $530 to support the costs associated with the grade 2 field trips to Drumlin Farm and the Museum of Science.
Second.
He got you by a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. The subcommittee updates.
There really isn't one, because there was no SSBC
No.
meeting.
It was an unusual circumstance
Yes.
last
Yeah.
Tuesday, the first
Unusual.
time in
Yeah.
Ever.
three ever.
I think there were a couple of, there was a girls' soccer game that night,
Yeah.
so there were parents who were on the SSBC who were not here. You
John
were
and
at a
Wayne
meeting
were,
in
yeah.
Milford.
Wayne and I were in Milford, yeah.
But we only had
10. We had
10 members, and we have 21, so we needed one more member for a quorum, and we didn't have
I
it. We did have
wasn't
a,
there.
Yo, Cliff wasn't there. I know, we were worried, Cliff.
but we did have a discussion.
I was on the way and got a Charlie horse, and my leg cramped up, I couldn't get to the car.
Oh.
I couldn't get there.
But again, we had a discussion, we got the reports from
Yeah.
the project manager, the architect, and the contractor, and so there wasn't a whole lot more to report than what we've already talked about.
No.
All right, so the schedule for the meetings coming up, the athletic subcommittee is tomorrow
Yep.
on the 17th at 12:30. NORCAM, which is Jerry's favorite, is Thursday, the 19th.
No, I just want to say with NORCAM, we are trying to work with them.
Yes.
Seriously. And I think, the next meeting, we're going to sit down, I think that Bob Messeri from the Board of Selectmen is going to be there as well, so.
Nice. The financial planning team is November 20th, this coming Friday at 8:15. And the next school building committee meeting will be November 24th at 5:30 here in the Distance Learning Lab. And the policy subcommittee is December 7th. And Superintendent Bernard for the
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I have a few things to share with you tonight. The first is, Mr. Venezia touched on it a little bit ago, about the middle school, high school integration, and I think with the end of the first marking period behind us, I'm happy to report to you that the middle school, high school integration, I don't think could be going any better. It is, people have worked very diligently, the teachers of both schools, the administration at both schools, to ensure what I think has been a highly successful integration of the middle school students into the new building. And I would invite all of you. There are certain times of the day when it's most interesting to see the systems that people have put into place to ensure that both schools operate well and independently. And I think it's in speaking with both Mrs. O'Connell and Mr. LaPrette, before I put this on my report tonight, I wanted to go and get their impressions from each of them, and I did that. And I was happy to hear that they certainly concurred with me on what my impressions were. It's very, very nice. Very nice and interesting and pleasing to see around the lunch times how well things are working, and physical education classes when there are, there's the phys ed area, the health classrooms, the auxiliary gym, the weight room, the main gym are a hive of activity with sometimes as many as 8 teaching stations in operation. People have done a very, very nice job, and the students are wonderful to watch. I mean, they just totally are respectful of each other and the operations of what they, the rules that are in place for them to observe, and it's gone very, very well. And I think it's good. It's a testament, I think, to the staff at both schools, the students themselves, and I thought it was important for the committee and the community to hear that all indications are it's going very well.
You know it must have been going well, because I haven't had a single complaint or comment from anybody. So I want to give, a lot of credit to the principals and the assistant principals.
They've done a
at
good
both
job.
schools.
I was fortunate to take a tour, at least of
Right,
high school,
yeah, on
last
Friday, yeah.
and actually got to witness lunchtime. And at least at the elementary level, it's not as calm, and kids chilling out, hanging, having their lunch, and to see. I was a little concerned with the close proximity of the middle school CAF and the high school CAF, and I didn't see that at all.
It's a non-
Proximity
see-
isn't- Yeah, I mean, they're separated by
Sure.
a good distance.
But that was a concern of mine.
Yeah.
And just to see, the community feel with the tables out in Main Street. I mean, it's a very enjoyable lunchtime, not what I recall from high school at all.
And
So
we
it was nice to
transitioned-
see.
We transitioned from 800 students being in this building last year, to
Yeah.
more than 1,400 students, 200 faculty, staff, and administrators in this building. I mean, all driving in
right.
here within a half an hour, 40 minutes of each other, all parking here, all transitioning through the building to classes and to, so I think it's really, that concept was kind of overlooked as to how this would all come together in September. It's not even an issue, so.
No, I agree. It has not been an issue. You know, arrival times in the morning when the middle school students are coming in, and the high school's already in operation. The students that arrive, they arrive early, they go right to their cafeteria space, very good supervision, but it's really been
I
nice
think
to
the
see.
building's laid out well for that.
It really is.
I think the sixth grade has
Yeah.
worked out fine as
Yeah,
far as the entrance
it
and
has.
the egress and all that stuff, so.
I was about to make a comment that we should thank the architects a little bit along the way.
I think the design is, there is no question in mind, this design is excellent,
I agree.
excellent.
It really
This
is.
type of
Very
a
nicely
For this
done.
type of
It is.
campus.
Campus, it was
It is.
fairly unique.
Yes.
Very nice.
And they had to build it on a bad site into basically a hill, and they had to
With a
connect it
rehab.
to
With a
the. yeah,
renovation,
Connect
yeah.
it with a rehabilitation, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I thought it was important for you to hear that, and, you know, my expectations are that it will continue. We've got, 3 good months under our belt now, and it's gone very well. I thought it would be important just to mention to you and to let you and the community know, let the committee and the community know that with the Thanksgiving Day football game coming up, that's a big event, of course, and where it's a new campus for us for the first time. I did speak with Dan. I appreciated his outreach to me and his publication in the paper about the preparations that we have for the game. We are, I think we have a good plan in place. I hosted a meeting with the high school principal, Wayne Hardacre, and Dave Johnson, the athletic director, to just kind of go over what our plans would be. I mean, this is a big show for the community, and it's the first time on this site that we're going to be hosting the game in the fashion that we are. And so I think we have done all of the things that we need to do to have police details in place. We've communicated well, I think, about our parking situation and where people can park, and encouraged early arrival for folks that may have needs for handicap spaces. We're going to designate some additional spaces for those folks down near the lower parking lot. So I think we've done a good job to prepare for what I'm anticipating to be a pretty large crowd
I'd
on
recommend
Thanksgiving
park up the
Day.
hill.
Yep.
It's a great day to get that walk. You're going to be.
Yeah,
up in
we've,
your
Dan
face
is,
in the,
right, you're on top
later
of
in the
that.
day.
I think we.
Well over 400 spaces
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the back here.
Yeah, I think we have a good,
Walk
right,
uphill.
we have a good message there, I think, for that. I've spoken with the Linfield superintendent. We have the Batchelder School available to us, too. So we have
spaces
we have
over there.
we're hiring a couple of additional police details that we might normally to kind of have someone up here as well and directing people up to the main site, because there may be some folks unfamiliar with where to go. But Dan has been helpful in getting that message out, as well as we're doing that internally, too. So I just wanted you to know that
No
it's been on our
having a
mind.
big crowd. The weather's supposed to be fairly decent.
Yeah.
Two
yeah.
excellent.
It's going to be a good game,
Yeah,
yeah.
two great
So.
teams.
Yep.
The weather? You've got the weather for Thursday, a week?
Sometimes I make things up, but it's supposed to be relatively nice.
The Rotary Clubs are hosting the annual luncheon on Wednesday. It's in North Reading this year at Teresa's. That's happening on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, the 18th at noon. Both teams will be represented by their coaches and captains, both bands, cheerleading squads and coaches. So that's a nice event that I think just kind of helps to build on what I think is a very good and healthy rivalry that North Reading and Linfield have. So. In your packet, excuse me, attached to this supplemental budget is a list of special project stipends that I am bringing to the committee for your approval. This is kind of an annual request, although it changes annually, but I'm proposing that stipends be paid to administrators in the district for what are called special projects. There are contractual provisions in employment contracts for these administrators. Madam Chairman, if you'd like, I'll read through the list for you if you'd like, okay? And again, I think, I want to just emphasize that these are for responsibilities beyond the scope of their normal work. I'm recommending to all of you a $750 stipend for both Mr. Downs, the assistant principal at the high school, and Mr. Maloney, the assistant principal at the middle school, for the work that they are doing with the implementation of the ALICE school safety protocol that I spoke about earlier this evening. Mr. Maloney, the assistant principal at the middle school, is the coordinator of an after-school activity program. You'll notice that along with a recommendation from Mr. McKay for an after-school program development at the Hood School, both would would be paid from funds that are raised from those two programs. Dr. Daly, I'm recommending a $1,500 stipend for his work as a mentor to our new digital learning coordinator, and also for Dr. Daly for his work associated with the middle school, high school building project. And similarly for Mr. Connolly, I'm recommending a $1,500 special project stipend for his associated work with the middle school, high school building project. I mentioned about Mr. McKay. Mrs. Conant, the new Pupil Personnel Services Director, I'm recommending a $1,500 special project stipend for her work as a District 504 coordinator. And for both Mr. LaPrette and Ms. O'Connell, the high school and middle school principals respectively, I'm recommending a $3,000 stipend each for their work associated with the high school, middle school building project. And that total is $16,000, Madam Chairman.
And with 2,500, that's paid by funds generated by the program, so it's 13.
That's correct.
1,500 to be borne by the district.
9,000 of that is specifically related to the building project, which this will be the last year, obviously.
And
We'll be dealing with that.
let me make it clear. These funds are in the budget, they're in the budget every year. These special projects stipends are in each administrator's contract. It's up to the superintendent to make recommendations as to how those stipends are paid and to whom they're paid. And it's an annual process that we go
And
through.
again, we've had some comments and some criticism of these types of stipends. And again, I think that, we have to draw the line. There has to be a fine line of what's required as part of their regular administrative duties in that particular position. But I think for me, when it comes to the school building project and the amount of time that's been required of these particular administrators, I have absolutely no issue with it. And quite frankly, I don't have issue with any of these. But I want to point out to people that 9,000 out of the 6,000 is directly related to the
Right.
school projects.
Right. Should we take a vote, or we don't have to?
Do we
but-
need to
I
vote, or
I
is it
think
just?
generally what we
discussion?
do is, I think the superintendent generally is looking for a consensus
Right.
amongst the committee members, because it's a budget,
I don't believe a vote is required.
No,
so a consensus. And again, I support it.
I do too.
I think
I
the
do.
spirit of the presentation tonight is transparency, and for,
Yes.
for you and the community to be aware that
I think it's
this.
important that we let people know.
And I've said a number of times, and I'll say it again, we have some very, very good committed administrators, and I'm interested in keeping them here, all the people on this list for sure. So, again, I support it.
Okay, thank you all very much. Just two other items. I did attach for you in your packet, and I believe, I had sent this out, I think, on, forgive me, it was either late Thursday or early Friday, the most recent communication, I think it was Thursday afternoon, from the Commissioner of Education. It's a pretty detailed memo that he sent out regarding what ultimately is, I think, outlining what the Commissioner's recommendation is going to be to the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education at their meeting tomorrow, when the board is slated to make a decision on where it's going to go in Massachusetts with respect to what I've labeled here as a next-generation assessment. So I think that the Commissioner's memo is very comprehensive. Unfortunately, my copy is highlighted. It probably didn't show too well on the copy that you all have, but certainly, I'm sure there will be some things in here that'll pique your interest. I think just for the sake of discussion and presentation to the community, so there is a meeting tomorrow when the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education is slated to act on a direction that it's going to go in Massachusetts for either adopting a new hybrid sort of an assessment that will integrate components of what the longstanding assessment of MCAS with the newer PARC test, or to abandon the PARC altogether. I think what the Commissioner's memo, what I take from it is that he believes strongly still that the MCAS has reached a point of diminishing returns, and that it needs to be elevated in terms of its both its rigor and its reflection of the Common Core, and is I think pretty much saying in here that his recommendation to the board will be that there is a place for a hybrid type of a test, not a full park implementation, certainly not a full MCAS implementation or continuing with the implementation that we have all known for a number of years, but that it be some sort of a hybrid, that he's using language like MCAS 2.0. So I think there's great, and there was an interesting article in the Globe yesterday for anyone who saw that. You know, another salient point, I think, for North Reading is where we had been an early adopter and piloted Park last year, that those districts would be, again, if his recommendation is adopted, would be administering the Park test again this spring. And that the new test, as it's laid out here, whether this comes to be or not, no one knows right yet, but if it were to come to pass, that the new test would be ready for adoption and administration in the spring of 2017, which seems very aggressive to me, but, I think a lot is to be seen tomorrow. And again, this is all based on whether or not the board adopts the recommendation, of which that's the motion for the board to consider that Commissioner Chester wrote is included. It's the last page of the packet, so.
One just detail that MCAS is available for districts who did MCAS last year.
That's correct, right,
So essentially, still offering a choice for spring 2016.
correct.
My cynical side, I think you gave a very good reporting of this. My cynical side says this is a smokescreen to essentially make Park our test, but not call it Park. But that's just my cynical side. I don't know if anybody else
There's a little
is
bit of
cynical.
me, well, I don't know if I'll say it, I don't know if it's a cynical view, but I was, when I read it Thursday, I thought it was a little more Park-heavy than I was expecting it to be.
Me too.
And I don't know, I think that's just from meetings I had been at where the commissioner spoke, just conversations that I have been involved with at the Superintendent's Association, and maybe I think kind of a general, almost a political climate that seemed to be a shift, and I think that there was, a good amount of angst around the park as we all know it to be, and that the opening, I think he had used a phrase about a third option, a third door, I think is actually the phrase. And I felt like there was a little more room for that I didn't read in the memo.
Well,
So
I
it came
think
as a little bit of a surprise.
There's some
to me.
interesting federal stuff coming down because they're really kind of banging away at this new federal bill, which from what I read today, would seem to give states more freedom as to how, we still have to give tests, but more freedom as to how we use them in terms of measuring our students, our schools, and our teachers. And I think that's important. I mean, I'd love to see less testing every 3 years instead of every year or whatever we're doing now. But if we have more leeway in each state, of course, with Mitchell Chester as our head of education, I don't know how much leeway we'll have, but it does give the states that what the federal government's talking about now, a little more leeway in how we use the results of these tests. And I think that giving us that option is good.
There was also some comment in there about the question about whether it's making us with some sort of a test that's transferable results across the nation. And, Park wasn't going to do that for us anyway, because there's a whole lot of states that aren't Park. And it looks like a lot of states are doing different things.
Doing their own, right.
And so we're going to have control over our test, and basically it read to me like, we're going to call it MCAS 2.0, and we're going to use a whole lot of stuff out of Park that has been researched and we've paid for.
Right.
And we're going to pull from that to add to the package to call it MCAS.
I think that's right.
And I think there's a lot of politic involved in it.
Do you think so?
That's unfortunate.
It is.
There's a lot of politics.
Very unfortunate.
It is.
And there's also a question of,
There was also it seemed to me, some commitment to providing technology resources to be able to do the online thing, which they were basically, he's saying that.
Saying by 2017.
2018.
19.
Yeah.
Significant advantages to using the technology, especially for, people who have trouble with just reading the paper. I'm not really sure I'm satisfied with the package he put together, but what do I have to say about it? Nothing.
One more detail, I went to the public forum today and spoke, and Commissioner Chester did extend the held harmless
1 year.
an additional
Yeah.
year. So that would be in effect for this coming school
That's
year
not
as
in
well.
here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was new news today.
Right.
One other thing, not to place too much importance in park scores, but I do think it was eye-opening to me when I saw the park scores. North Reading did very well. We far exceeded the state averages in most categories, and in many, we were in the top 15, 20 districts in the state that took, ahead of some other districts that you would think, like we were, like, for example, Andover, we were a point behind Andover in each category. And
Better than
I was.
Andover. That was a goal I gave Kathy Willis.
Right,
Better
that was
than
a goal, right,
Andover.
better than Andover. But again, it's good to see at least our students being put through the misery are succeeding
Responding.
through that misery. Yeah.
And by the way, to that point, we will be doing a
I'm
presentation
assuming,
to you in December. Yeah, we have that, similar to the
But
MCAS.
tomorrow will be interesting. I'm sure they're going to.
Tomorrow will be interesting.
Because there's a conference call, correct?
Yeah. And the only other thing I had, to, Madam Chairman, if I could, to share with you is, and I know you're all aware, but for the community's benefit, Dr. Daly has been named one of 2 finalists for the superintendent's position in the Tri-Town Union School District, which is an elementary superintendent, elementary level superintendent position representing Boxford, Middleton, and Topsfield. He learned of that last week. You know, I think we all think very, very highly of Patrick, very highly of Patrick. He's a definite asset to this district. You know, he and I spoke extensively leading up to his ultimate decision to apply. And I think, you know, there were several factors that contributed to his decision. I do not believe he's out actively looking at superintendent positions, but I think he lives in the district, has children in the district, and saw it as an opportunity that he was not willing to let pass by. So he interviewed. He's been named one of 2 finalists, as I said. I believe there is a site visit scheduled for him in that district next week. I think there are 2 candidates, and one's on Monday, one's on Tuesday, and then they're looking to do public interviews on or around December 1st, and he also thought that there would be a site visit here, so he may be reaching out to some folks to participate in that as well. So as much as, you know, I value Patrick's significant contributions here, I wish him well in that pursuit, because, you know, it certainly is something that he's a very talented individual, and I think can lend a lot to a school district. I wish him well, but it's with, you know, some mixed feelings, so we'll see how it
Would
goes.
it be inappropriate for me to move to rescind his stipend?
That was for.
That was for
Oh,
what's been
all right.
done.
Last
or-
year.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Future business, the next meetings for the school committee will be November 30th and December 14th, 7 PM, and both are here at the Long Distance Learning Lab. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.